Delighted everybody can join us here today. I'm sure lots of people are in the middle of holidays and it seems like Dublin city centre is deserted at the moment. So fair play to everyone for joining today. And hello to those people who may have joined this talk way back in January, which seems like a lifetime ago. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. Those of you who've attended one of my webinars before will know that I have a fondness for using something called Mentimeter, which means you need to have your phone handy if you can. And that is because we are going to do a quiz today. So my kind of mantra for Earthology is I cannot do everything, but I can do something. So these are all top tips today that will help you be able to do something towards helping climate change and what we can do to avoid the disaster that is impending. Okay, so what we do, we get businesses on their sustainability journey through talks, workshops even, and strategy. So what is your carbon footprint? What's a carbon footprint all about? So someone's carbon footprint is a measurement of the amount of carbon dioxide that their activities produce. So this might be you're driving to work, this could be going to the cinema, this could be downloading YouTube, this could be going on holidays, anything and everything that you do. It's also right down to the energy that's used in your house. There is a website called globalfootprint.org, and that is somewhere where you can go to and have a look at your footprint, etc. And they have calculated that Ireland would need 2.8 planets a year if everyone used the same amount of natural resources in the same rate as Ireland. So everybody in the world, what they have done, this organization, they have figured out how many planets every country takes every year in terms of resources. So Ireland, unfortunately, is, we had our overshoot day this year pretty early on in the year. It was kind of March, April kind of time. So we're not doing very well in Ireland in terms of resources, so we need to step that up. The global Earth overshoot day this year is actually pushed back a tiny little bit to the 21st of August. And that's obviously slightly due to coronavirus and the fact that we didn't have so many emissions going on. What I would suggest you do in terms of carbon footprints is there are 3 carbon footprint calculators, and tip 1 is to educate yourself and to go and have a look. The World Wildlife Fund one that I've put first, footprint.wwf, is brilliant. It's very simple. You don't need to know your emissions from your house or your electricity use, all that kind of stuff. Carbon footprint is good because if you're a small business, you can also calculate the carbon footprint of your small business. And for a certain amount of calculations, it's actually free. And then Friends of the Earth in Ireland, it's quite specific to Ireland, and that's why I quite like that one. What's the average Irish resident's ecological footprint? And you're going to have a choice. Is it 2.8 global hectares, 4.8 global hectares, or 5.6 global hectares of ecological footprint? So hopefully you guys will have a chance to vote and it will work. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so 50-50. Right, yes, the answer is 4.8 global hectares. So the global average is actually only 2.8 global hectares. So it's actually quite big in Ireland, our global footprint, which is quite scary. Okay, so yay, look at you guys. You're all coming in and you have names and it's all working. So hallelujah. So don't know why that didn't work before. So I will skip on. Okay, so everything has a carbon footprint. So some of you might know this, that hitting send on emails actually has is something that works towards your carbon footprint. Also using your mobile, watching YouTube, and all those things. So tip 2 is think before you thank. What I mean by this is the global footprint of email, and particularly spam email, is the equivalent of 331 million cars on the road. So all those newsletters that you subscribe to that you don't need anymore, just go ahead and unsubscribe and delete them because the footprint is huge. And when I say think before you thank, it's all those emails where somebody says to you, and here's such and such, whatever, and you reply, thanks, or great, or received, or approved, or lol, or there's a top 10 list of things that we reply to on email that we don't need. So a little quiz for you, if it's going to work. Let's see, fingers crossed, it is working today. It's having a moment. If everyone in the UK sent one less email per day, it would equate to how much less carbon? So would it equate to 31,732 flights to Madrid, 61,750, or 81,000? Okay, so the right answer is a whopping 81,152 flights to Madrid. So if we could all think about just sending, don't send that email that says thanks. Nobody needs that email. They don't need to, like, they know that you appreciate them and it's not necessary. Okay, so who is winning today? It is, oh, Sebastian, well done. Pretty good. So there's, oh, yeah. Oh, no, actually it's Claire. Oh, Claire and Boating with Boatface, my favorite. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look. There is another question. Which of these actions do you think has the biggest impact on climate change? Is it wasting less food, becoming a vegetarian or vegan, or composting your food waste? Wasting less food, becoming a vegetarian or vegan, composting your food waste. Let's see, what did most people say? Yay! Okay, so you were all here before. I'm very impressed. You all remember what it is. It's absolutely food waste. Yeah, food waste is one of the key things that we can do about climate change. So looks like Claire and Boating with Boatface, shortly followed by Sebastian, are on a mission. So food waste, yes, a third of all food that we produce never makes it onto our plate, and that accounts for 8% of global emissions. In Ireland, we throw away 1 million tonnes of food every single year. So when we say we throw away all this food, it means that includes things like vegetable peelings and, you know, the takeaway that you forgot to eat, or the bit of lettuce at the back of your fridge, or, you know, that bit of cucumber, or, you know, all those things that maybe, you know, or, you know, the pot of jam that went moldy, or all that kind of stuff. So they reckon that if you cut your food waste, you could save up to £1,000 a year, which is massive. And the 1 million tonne of food waste actually equates to filling Croke Park to the top twice over with food waste. So it's absolutely massive. So if you can, get a brown bin or a compost bin. Now, obviously, if you live in an apartment, I can appreciate this is extremely difficult because most apartments don't have a brown bin or food waste. But if you check out, we did some tips with a lovely lady called Shelley, who was all about stopping food waste. And Shelley has some great tips, and it's on our YouTube channel. And it's all about stopping food waste. So stopfoodwaste.ie, and there's also sharewaste.ie. And there's also the Olio app as well, which is brilliant. If you have something that's going off or you don't think you're going to use it anymore, you put it up on Olio and people can come and take it off you for free. So if you're going away or something like that, it's great. And then tip 4 is to get creative with leftovers. So the freezer is my friend in our house. So I do things like, if I've got a pot of cream that's about to go off and I think I'm never going to get through all of this cream, what I do is I pour it into ice cube trays and then I push it into the freezer. And then it means that I can just add a little cube of cream to like a risotto or a soup or whatever time I want to make something creamy. Or if you can, give away your leftovers, share them with friends. A great thing to do with like all those bits of vegetables at the bottom of your fridge and freezer is to make soup with them. So those are my top tips for food waste. Next is very much in the spotlight, I suppose, at the moment, which is to power up on plants. So 14.5% of global emissions come from meat and dairy, and the 25% of the average person's CO2 emissions come from diet. So if you can change to being what we call a flexitarian, which means that you are cutting out meat nearly every day except like maybe for the weekends, and obviously eating more plants and less meat is good for your health, as you know, several studies have shown. So if you wanted to start gently, don't go crazy, have meat-free Mondays, check out the hashtag, there are loads of ideas. Or a really great one is actually veganuary.com. And they have for the month of January, and actually goes throughout the year, but for the month of January you can go on and you can have a look at going vegan if you want to take it to that level. In Ireland, our emissions from dairy are actually pretty good due to the cows and the way that they are they are reared. But it's just something to have a think about if you can cut down on your dairy as well. And then I've put save money with lentils. So if you are going to make a spaghetti bolognese, let's just say, and you're not vegetarian or vegan, what you can do is put in half mince and half red lentils. And I guarantee you, like, nobody will notice. Like, it's just, it's so easy, and it halves the cost of the bolognese, and makes it much healthier too. So some top tips there for powering up on plants. So another quiz question for you. Let's go into it now. It is all about transport. So what do you think will reduce carbon emissions more? Is it shipping goods more efficiently? And obviously that's never been true with the way things are going at the moment. Flying less, driving an electric car. Obviously at the moment the traffic in Dublin is pretty light, but apparently there are a lot more lorries on the road because of all the stuff we're buying. So yeah, it's mad. So the answer here is, this was done by a study called Project Drawdown, which is a massive group of scientists in the US, and they did a study based on pretty much on individual action. So they said, look, okay, if everybody in the world did this, what would be the most reduction? And they found out that actually it was driving an electric car. So now obviously that presupposes that you've all got cars. Maybe you don't, but maybe you know somebody who does, and certainly getting an all-electric one as opposed to a hybrid is even better. So let's have a look after that. Who is coming up? It is, oh, so I'm going to call you Sai the koala. Aha, so Sai, you're two. Wow, you're brilliant. Okay, you're top of the leaderboard. Fantastic, guys. So what can you do about transport emissions? You can improve your fitness. So private cars account for 41% of energy usage in Ireland, which is massive. A congested commute to work. So this is if you sit in traffic and you drive like less than 5 kilometers a day, but actually it takes you 45 minutes. And obviously at the moment, that's not what it takes you because of a lot less traffic. But they worked out that a congested commute was the equivalent of flying to New York and back annually. So maybe think about cycling or walking to work if you possibly can, or can you get off the Lewis or whatever one step earlier and walk. Better for your fitness, better for your health. Can you cut down, if you're a 2-car family, can you cut down to 1 car? And can you drive electric? Switch to your bicycle. There are so many brilliant new cycle lanes coming in. Just delighted to see how much has been put in infrastructure wise around Ireland over the last 3 months. And then tip 9 is to offset your travel. So I don't know if many people have heard of Vita.ie. Vita is an Irish charity, and what they do is they offset your carbon emissions. So you can go in and you can put in, I don't know, you just drove, let's say you drove 500 kilometers to Kerry or whatever it is. And you think, well, look, I didn't fly this year, but I want to offset that journey to Kerry in the car. So if you go in and put in the journey, Vita will say, okay, thanks very much. That is worth, you know, €2.30 or whatever it might be, and then you just pay them the money and they invest it into offsetting. So what Vita do, particularly, rather than planting trees, Vita will provide stoves for women and families in developing countries. And just going back to Project Drawdown, this is one of the things that Project Drawdown said was one of the most important things that we can do in developing countries is to empower women, and way down at number 60 something is stop people from cooking on open stoves. So Vita provide them with these lovely little stoves, which means they don't have to forage for so much wood in the forest. They don't have to spend so much time doing it. The cooking time is reduced. It's a win-win all round, and it improves the lives of communities. So I think it's a brilliant thing to do to offset your emissions from travel. So next question is all about energy. What energy will have the most climate impact? This is thinking big now. So is it solar panel farms? Is it onshore wind farms? Or is it investing in nuclear power? So which of those do we think will have the most climate impact, i.e. will reduce the most emissions? So onshore wind farms, yes, exactly. And we have, we're right up there with Norway for the amount of wind farms that we have in Ireland. So we're doing extremely well within Europe and competing really, really well at a high level. However, we still actually import 80% of our energy, which is actually still from fossil fuels, which is a bit scary. So what we need to do is we need to have fossil fuels staying in the ground. And this is also relating to plastic, right? Because plastic is also made from petroleum and from fossil fuels. So they reckon that by 2030, office equipment is set to consume 30% of the total electricity used in offices, which is huge. So if you can think about turning down your monitor, if you can think about changing your electricity supplier. So check out switcher.ie. This is a great website. So if you're not on 100% renewable energy, so you need to be thinking about using, let's say, somebody like Energia or SSE, because they are 100% renewables. But those guys like Bord Gosh, and who else? I think it's Ibola, the Spanish one. Their provision is still only something like 23 to 30% from renewables. So if you can switch to 100% renewable energy, that would be brilliant. As most of you may know, change your search engine to Ecosia or Ecosia. Ecosia is brilliant. It basically works like Google. You can just, if you use Chrome, you just put it into your search engine, put it into the toolbar at the top, and what it does is when you search, it basically takes the money that you would have clicked on for different ads or whatever that Google normally takes for money for driving into different projects. Ecosia will plant trees with that money. So you know, and what it does is it calculates. So when you go onto it, you can see like, okay, 101 million trees have been planted, and it even gives you a little tally up in the right-hand corner of your own kind of tree planting tally, which is brilliant. If anyone's having any problems with searching Ecosia as opposed to Google and not getting the right search results, just give me a shout. You may have tried it last year and it didn't work for you so well. They have now refined it a lot, and it's brilliant. It does give me much better results than it used to. And if you want specific results, you can put in #G to search Google or #YT to search YouTube. Insulate your home. So if you're in an apartment, you're probably very much insulated really well already. But if you turn down the heating by 1 degree, you can save money on your energy bills between 200 to 300 euro a year just by turning your energy, your heating down by 1 degree. So those are my top tips for energy. Okay, so let's see where we're doing on the leaderboard. Okay, so we are, oh, God, Claire, you're doing pretty well there, I have to say. Pretty impressed with that. And let's see. Okay, so we have one more quiz question, I think. So consumerism. I think lots of people have probably seen about the fast fashion industry and its impact in the last number of weeks, especially with lots of brands cancelling their orders because obviously nobody went out and went shopping, etc. But the fashion industry creates 8% of global emissions. That is worse than the shipping and aviation industries combined. So if you're worried about flying, I'd be more worried about going out to Penneys or H&M and buying that top, to be honest, because the impact of that is much, much bigger than worrying about your flying. Plastic, only 9% of plastic waste has ever been recycled. So that means your first toothbrush, even my first toothbrush, still exists, which is quite scary. So invest in well-made clothes. Have like a mix and match wardrobe and pieces that will last. So maybe try and stay away from those t-shirts that might only be, you know, €5, but actually they don't last so well. And obviously, if you've heard anything about Boohoo lately, please do not order from Boohoo because they treat their workers absolutely disgustingly. And that was the major cause of outbreaks in Leicester in the UK, was the factories that Boohoo used because of their way they treated their workers, and everybody was on top of each other and they didn't test anybody, and I won't go into it. So tip 14 is use your water bottle and cup. So Starbucks have just said, we are going to go back to using, letting people refill their cups. So if your coffee shop is not accepting your refillable cup, go in and ask them why, because there is absolutely no reason, even during the current pandemic, as to why they cannot use your cup. There is a really excellent video from Cloud Picker Coffee, which shows you just how you can do contactless coffee. I think Starbucks are doing it by placing your mug into one of their ceramic mugs and then just, you know, holding the outside of the ceramic mug and then moving it around the stations and then giving it back to you, and you can just take out your coffee cup from the little holder. So not rocket science. Okay, so that's my rant for today. Go tell your provider of tea and coffee to sort that out. Refill.ie, there's also refill.co.uk, which means that you can, if you're out and about and you want to fill your bottle, Refill will show you where you can take in your bottle and get it refilled with tap water for free. Buy secondhand. I'm sure some of you maybe also use Depop. Depop have amazing sales on at the moment, because I think even Depop is struggling with people buying secondhand. I don't know if you've also seen Thriftify. That's an Irish invention that are trying to take the best pieces, let's say, from charity shops and sell them online. And of course, adverts, eBay, all of those things. So if I need to buy something, what should I buy lately? Oh, so my daughter needed a new bed frame, and the first place I looked was adverts. It was like, I don't know, like half the price, and didn't have to like wait for ages for it to be delivered. I just went and picked it up from the person's house. Like, what's not to like really about buying pre-loved stuff? And also, you know, buying from charity shops. Pick up a lovely pair of leggings recently for myself and also for my daughter. Just pop them in the wash and they are brilliant. So just something to think about in terms of the way that you shop. Just think about it a little bit differently, and can you look at secondhand before you buy new? And here is the last question, which is all about what options on land would reduce the most carbon. So I'm talking about initiatives like protecting and restore rainforests, planting more bamboo, or returning land to Indigenous people. So which of those things do you think would help to reduce carbon emissions the most? Yes, absolutely. It's protect and restore rainforests. It's something that we really, really, really need to do. So where are we now? Dun, dun, dun. If I could do a drum roll, I would. But I can't. So Claire, you are today's winner. Do, 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 do. So where obviously you have a brilliant fanfare and noise. So well done, Claire, for getting those answers all right. So that leads us nicely into the balance of life. And we are just conscious we've got a few more minutes left. So there's 20 tips, so we're getting there now. So we are exploiting nature faster than it can replenish itself. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, if you check out globalfootprint.org, that will tell you about how many earths we have every year to use up. And unfortunately, Ireland uses our earths up way at the beginning of the year. So we need to think about ways of replenishing nature and looking after it. Some other study that I read recently is that it takes 500 years just for the earth to create 1 centimetre of topsoil. So we really need to think about the way that we are farming, what we are using the land for, and they reckon that we only have 60 harvests left before the earth just is dust and is no good to anyone, because we've been pouring in all these fertilizers and we have been basically not treating the land in the way that it should be. So we really need to think about the way that we get our food and our $3.99 chicken in Lidl or Aldi, and just, you know, is it a battery chicken? Is it, you know, like all those things? It's cheap for a reason, and we are going to pay for it big time. So we need to think about what we can do to do about that. So 1 million species are currently threatened with extinction. Why is this a problem? You know, everyone's worried about polar bears. Well, who cares if polar bears die? Well, we're going to care, because if honeybees go extinct, then we'll have no food. So we really need to think about why we need to worry about it. Unfortunately, the images of polar bears don't really help to explain the urgency of the situation. We're exploiting the infrastructure that our lives depend on. So just exactly that I explained about the bees. And that's why tips 16 and 17 are about helping wildlife. So you may have seen Trinity, they planted wildflowers on their lawn this year out the front. It's getting a little bit late now to plant wildflowers. You could give it a go. They might flower well on into November if we have crazy warm weather. But normally the best time to start is kind of March or April. And if anybody was growing their own this year, I hope you did. There was lots of initiatives, Cully and Scully, GIY, all those kind of guys provide free seeds and good places to get started. If you have a garden or access to a garden, or your parents have a garden, can you make a bug hotel for pollinators? This doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to Aldi or Lidl and buy one of their beautiful looking ones with little bamboo sticks and all this kind of stuff. It literally could be like a pile of rocks and make a little corner of the garden go to seed and nettles and things like that. So it's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then your office. So this is really important. Like I love the green wall in Iconic at the Greenway. You really do need to think about maybe having a little plant on your desk. Can you have a plant on your desk at home if you're working from home? I have a peace lily next to me, which I'll show you in a minute. And there's Benjamin ficus, which is the ornamental fig, and ferns. A study by NASA, this is going back quite a few years, but a study by NASA said that it was a really brilliant thing to have plants in your office space, because obviously they generate oxygen, but they take away all the VOCs in the air that are from things like carpets and off-gassing from furniture and stuff like that. So those are the main things to do. And then finally, last but not least, do one thing. So you're all there sitting, listening to me blather on about how important it is to do all these things, and you're going, oh my God, Sarah, too many things. What can I do? And there's something called the attention action gap, where you listen to me, you think, brilliant, I'm going to do those things. And then you go away and by tomorrow you've forgotten about them. So let's try and bridge that gap by really just picking one of the things, one of the 20 actions that I've gone through today, and see what you can do. If you're really into it, sign campaigns, you know, Some of Us, Friends of the Earth, join an environmental charity, and be a conscious consumer. Join your green team if there is one at work. In fact, create one if there isn't one. Think about what you're doing at home, because obviously now we're all working from home, or half in, half out. Do something today, and most importantly, celebrate your actions. So if you change your energy provider from, let's say, Bord Gáis to SSE electricity, and you save yourself, I don't know, €200 a year, and you get, I don't know, really good entry into Dublin Zoo, and you get great rewards, tell your friends about it. Say, look, I switched, and not only did I save money, but I got all these brilliant things in return. So if you can tell your friends about the things that you have done, be it putting lentils in with your bolognese, or just little things that you thought, actually, that wasn't too hard, and it helps. It all helps, because Christina Figueres, who is a brilliant lady, who wrote some fabulous books and is part of the UN mission, she is on a mission to make sure that it isn't all about companies. It's also about individual actions and what you can do. So that's me, that's us. And I would just encourage you to do one thing today. And if you want to know more about what we can do for companies, we help you to measure, reduce, offset, and communicate your good actions through the UN SDGs and B Corps.